Good morning and welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission's administrative meeting for August 26th, 2020. It's always bittersweet to lose any employee at the PSC, much less one of the members of the senior management team. Today, I announced that we are losing Casey Brent, who has been our first director of the Consumer Affairs Division. Over the past 2.5 years, Casey has accomplished a lot during her tenure, working on issues from handling complaints and both utility and retail supplier investigations to working on our supplier diversity conferences that we hold every July. Most notable, one of the pieces of Casey's legacy is the creation of an online complaint portal that will begin operation on Monday, August 31st. For too long, customers with complaints regarding utility services would need to file paper, mail it to the commission, or send faxes. Now, with our online cloud-based complaint portal, it'll be much easier for customers to contact the commission to share any concerns they have with us regarding their services. So I'd like to thank Casey on behalf of the commission for her work. You will be missed, and we'll look forward to seeing your success as you transition to the private sector. I'd also like to announce that we have a 2-day hearing coming up starting tomorrow regarding the impacts of COVID-19 on both our utilities and utility customers. That conference will begin tomorrow promptly at 10 a.m. and last 2 days. The Commission looks forward to hearing from both utilities, state agencies, and other interested parties and sharing their thoughts and proposals as the Commission considers this very important and consequential issue. With that, we have meeting minutes from our meeting last week to approve. The vote on those minutes begin with Commissioner Richard.
I vote aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
And Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
I too vote aye. The meeting minutes for the meeting of August 19th, 2020 are approved. Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. There are 14 items on today's consent agenda. Item number 1 is the request of Blockline Systems LLC to de-tariff its regulated local exchange services. Item number 2 is a notice from Legacy Long Distance International, Inc., DBA Legacy Inmate Communications, of the transfer of its existing inmate calling services contract with Carroll County to Global Tel Link. Items number 3 through 9 consist of revised tariff pages from various companies reflecting changes in their intrastate access service. The companies are listed on today's agenda on the Commission's website. Items number 10 through 12 are weather station designations from the Easton Utilities Commission, Chesapeake Utilities Corporation, and Hagerstown Light Department, respectively. Item number 13 is a notification of new ownership from MAS Retriever Holdings. And finally, item number 14 is a notification of emergency trucking of limestone from GenOn Mid-Atlantic LLC.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Seeing if the commissioners have any questions. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question, or maybe a couple questions about number 14, the GenOn filing. I suppose, Mr. Zong, are you available to take some questions on that?
Good morning, Commissioner O'Donnell. I'm available today, but I've also invited Jan Dickerson's environmental compliance personnel. I believe he's available. I would defer this to Jan to explain to you, address your question.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much because they're more appropriately addressed to GenOn. I didn't understand. So let me just ask, let me set up that discussion with GenOn, though, by asking you a question about the buck sheet. The discussion section says, therefore, the plan initiated a trucking route that is expected to last 2 weeks. The filed letter explained this route in detail. Which, is it the June 23rd filed letter that was attached to this item, or is it a different letter?
Yes, I can explain. This, the comments I wrote is about the July 21st letter filed by the Dickerson plant. In that letter, there is a detailed route description of trucking of limestone to the Dickerson plant. The reference that I attached, which is a different letter from a different plant, the Morgantown plant, is what I put in there as a reference, just indicating the engineering staff has been receiving similar notifications before, where there is also a different route described for trucking limestone to the Morgantown plant. But here, for this admin meeting, I was strictly referring to the filing of July 21st from the Dickerson plant. Sorry if I caused any confusion there.
No problem, no problem. I figured out after I was questioning this again in my mind that maybe wasn't the right letter that had the right route in. So let me go ahead to Dickerson staff, Jen on. Could the company representative describe for the commission what the trucking route will be for the Dickerson plant? I haven't seen it. I don't know what that is.
Yes, sir. Commissioner O'Donnell, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The letter went out and was in advance of the trucking, but the trucking did occur on July 27th. 8 loads were taken from Fayetteville, our supplier of limestone, Cartmuse, to the Dickerson plant. And I did review my letter, and the route is missing 2 links. So from Route 340, the truck's gone on to Route 70 East, and then 270 South, and then Route 85 South. So I did omit that. It's sort of a familiarity when I'm driving, and I guess I just in my mind made that little loop on the interstates and back off right away on, through Frederick, because they all come together. So I can send a corrected letter if that's required.
The reason I asked the question, of course, is because some of this trucking activity, especially in the Washington metropolitan area, has been of some sensitivity over the years, both in the legislature and at the commission. And that's why we had the conditional requirement to notify the commission. I'm not sure I need that, but did I understand you to say this movement, this trucking has already occurred?
Yes, sir. The CPCN required a 72-hour notice if emergency trucking was required.
Okay, then, Mr. Chairman, I suppose I don't have any questions. It's already done. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Richard.
Yeah, for item number 2, I was just reading this last night, so I didn't give staff a heads up. But is staff available to answer just one question? It would be Olivia Kuykendall. I guess that's no.
Hi, this is Olivia Kuykendall. I'm available for any questions.
Yeah,
and then there's also a representative from GTL on as well.
Okay, yeah, I know this is really just a transfer of the company name, but will there be a later filing as to allow us to look into what the tariffs are, the rates and tariffs? It just notes that on page 3 of the company's filing that GTL will make any necessary revisions to its rates, terms, and conditions, to incorporate Legacy's current services and rates so that ICS customers will continue to receive the same service they currently receive without any immediate changes to their service offerings or rates. Does that mean that they will be coming to us at a later date to discuss what their rates are for these correctional facilities?
I don't believe so, but I can double check that and get back to you.
Okay. Yeah, I would just note that this is an issue
answer.
that's been brought up by NARUC and other concerns about what type of rates and tariffs are being charged at correctional facilities. So I wonder if this is an opportunity for us to better understand and investigate that in Maryland. So that really was the basis of my question. So yeah, I'd appreciate hearing about that maybe offline at a later time. Thank you.
Hearing no additional questions, I will move that with respect to item 1, we grant the company's request to de-tariff its regulated local exchange services. With respect to item number 2, that we note the transfer of the inmate calling services contract with Carroll County from Legacy Long Distance International Incorporated, doing business as Legacy Inmate Communications, to Global Telelink Corporation. With respect to item number 3, that we accept the tariff revisions for filing and direct the company to file clean copies of the tariff revisions with an effective date of September 1st, 2020. With respect to items number 4 through 9, that we accept the tariff revisions for filing with an effective date of September 1st, 2020. With respects to items 10 through 12, that we approve the weather station designations for the purpose of determining when there is an extreme weather period, that under Comar Title 20, Subtitle 31, Chapter 3, Regulations 3 and 4, impose a restriction on termination of service due to customers' non-payment. And with respect to items number 13 and 14, that we note the filing. The vote begins with Commissioner Richard.
I vote aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
And Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motions are approved. Mr. Secretary, the administrative agenda.
Mr. Chairman, on today's administrative agenda, items number 15 and 16 are Green Rider tariff updates from respectively Delmarva Power and Light Company and Potomac Electric Power Company. On these items for staff, we have Mosier and Annette Garofalo. For the companies, Doug McKeel, Peter Blazunas, Matt Bonikowski, and Amanda Holden.
Thank you. Good morning. We will begin with staff. Mr.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Kevin Mosier on behalf of staff. On July 30th, Pepco and Delmarva submitted tariff revisions to their green rider rates to reflect up-to-date market prices. At the June 19th, 2019 administrative meeting, the Commission approved these companies' green rider rates. These rates provide 100% renewable energy to residential plug-in vehicle customers and public electric vehicle charging service that uses PHI's public charging network. The new rate is a 2.6% increase over the existing rate of 0.202378 cents per kilowatt hour, and staff recommends the Commission accept the tariff for filing.
Thank you. We'll next hear from the utility.
I'm here to answer any questions. Doug McKeel. I also have the folks.
About that, thank you. I was on mute. Mr. McKeel, you broke up for a minute there, but I think we heard that you're willing to take questions. So we'll begin with questions from the commissioners, starting with Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering if staff could help me understand. We had quite an extensive conversation on the SMECO filing on the AM, 2 AMs, and acted on it affirmatively last week, which was originally proffered as an SOS green option. Name was changed during the AM to remove the SOS designation and just call it Green Rider or something to that effect. How are these two items materially different from that previous item from SMECO?
Kevin Mosier on behalf of staff. I think the basic difference is that the SMECO would be offered to everyone across its service territory, whereas this would only be offered to customers with that are EV charging customers.
Okay, but couldn't right? But couldn't SMECO similarly come back with an EV charging rider? Same thing, like they did with the Green Rider?
I don't see any reason they couldn't, particularly given the precedent that we have with PHI.
So how does this rider relate to SOS?
Effectively, if you are, if you have a plug-in vehicle and you're on this plug-in vehicle rate, you would be getting your service from your energy from the underlying BG&E SOS providers. The differences, I guess, in this case, there would be, for the Green Rider, they're also purchasing the associated RECs.
So the way this rider is calculated is the SOS cost of energy plus or minus some EV tariff adjustment?
Well, actually, the underlying PIV rate actually is a time of use rate. So, and maybe PHI can better explain how that works, but it is based on, it is part of the SOS. It's just a different SOS rate.
Hi, Commissioner O'Donnell. This is Peter Blazunas with Pepco. I'm the manager of rate administration. So this Green Rider that we're talking about, it's related to SOS insofar as what it is doing is it is looking at the amount of renewable energy already built into the company's SOS product, and then essentially coming up with a rate that allows us to purchase the RECs such that the customer is essentially then paying for 100% renewable energy. So we already have, because of our RPS standards in Maryland, a certain percentage of our SOS coming from renewable power sources. This just allows us to purchase the incremental RECs to get to 100% for that customer. So that's how it's really working for the individuals who opt in to receive service under it. As it stands right now, it only really applies to our RPIV and PIV customers, which are our time of use electric vehicle related charging rates for residential customers. And then we also include it for our public charging stations.
How does this rider relate to the SOS competitive bidding process for procurement?
Yes.
I think that's where my disconnect is.
I gotcha. This is obviously a high level understanding, but when we go in to procure the competitive bids for our SOS product, our bidders are going to include a certain level of renewable energy in their product based on the Maryland RPS standards. Okay, and so when we are looking at the setting up this Green Rider rate, we know that that product in the SOS already includes some level of renewable energy. All the Green Rider is doing is allowing the customer to purchase the incremental amount of RECs or SRECs necessary to get them to 100% renewable product for themselves.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to ask any further questions because I feel inadequate to do so. I can tell you that this is not as apparent as one may think, at least not to this commissioner. I'm not sure how this all fits together. I'm not going to vote against these items, but this is some pretty complicated stuff, at least to me.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is a intersection between riders and SOS and what's included and what is not. Do commissioners have additional questions of PHI or our staff team? Hearing none, with respect to items number 15 and 16, I move that we accept the tariff pages for filing with an effective date of September the 1st, 2020. The vote begins with Commissioner Richard.
I vote aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye with a great deal of discomfort.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
And Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motions are approved. With no additional business on today's agenda, this hearing is adjourned. Thank you.